Hello, this is Ina again. I want to make another flip through video for you. I have my latest art journal here. This one I made out of an old cookbook binder. It already had a nice spine and the rings and the corners. So I just decoupaged some pretty paper on the front and added some metal and some doily and other little decorations. I also added a little charm made from earrings. These are also made from broken jewelry. My daughters are so kind to give me all their broken stuff. The backside I left just the way it was. I just added a little piece over the information from the publisher. I also added a button closure. I strengthened it a little bit by adding a little button on the inside on both sides as well. So the front was the index of the cookbook. So I covered it by using different collage elements and just kind of put it together. I left room for a title, keyword collages, and I also added my date stamp when I started, when I finished this book, and my name. And then these pages are actually store-bought pages someone gifted to me. They're very pretty. They are journal pages, and I put them in here mainly because they fit the holes, and maybe, just maybe, one day I will be writing in them, and I could possibly insert them in between the other pages. I'm not sure. Let's see. So far I have not done a whole lot of writing in my journals, but never know. So, oops, sorry, got a fly here. Alright, so I used mostly the pages who were in this book to start with. They were just, I would say, thick paper or thin cardboard. I don't know where the line lies between paper and cardboard. And after gessoing them on both sides, I was able to use them quite easily. They had recipes on them and some little illustrations, but they don't show up, and even if they would have, with my mixed media, it really didn't matter much. I also used a few pages out of an old photo album. I don't know if you remember the ones where you had to glue your picture in, and it comes on this little bit thicker, nicely textured paper. Well, someone gave me a bunch of that, and I cut it to size and used it as well. Now the paper is great in a way of texture, but it does not hold up to anything. It does not like water, so you really have to gesso it. Usually I had to do it twice. But amazingly, the texture remains, and even on this page, it is one of those. You can still see it, maybe a little bit, probably not. And so, yeah, it was fun paper to work with, no problem. So it's a mixture of the photo album paper and the paper which was originally in here. I kind of like to use what I already have. I'm really big on recycling, and yeah, it's fun. So the first page, wishing for endless ideas and inspiration. I thought it was a nice start for a new book. And I added the wishing well, which I made out of separate different pieces. It has some texture paste and a real rope, and it was originally meant for something else, but I hadn't used it and it was laying around, so I thought it would have a good place in here. Again, if you like to know more about each page, the way it was made, what ingredients I used, please visit my Facebook page, and there you will find all these pages with details about how I made them, etc. Please forgive my talking. I do make mistakes, I mess up words, and so you just have to bear with me. I will do my best. So that was the first one. Oh yeah, and also because these pages do get messed up when I work in them. I'm kind of a messy worker, and I always end up getting some paint on the back side, and I didn't want to leave it either blank or with just some splotches or splatter. Neither did I want to work on them, because when I do, I tend to mess up whatever's happening in here. That happened in my last album. It was one of those spreads in an altered book, and it was fun, and in the end it worked out and nobody would ever know the difference. But many pages I had to go back and check and fix the corners because something leaked through and all that. So I quite enjoyed working in here, because of course I can take the pages out, make all the mess I want, and then when they're all done they can go into a nice clean album. I kind of like that idea. So so here you see that I used a napkin to cover up my messes and make it look a little more appealing, and I did so through all the pages. This is a page I did trying to practice a little more painting faces, which, as you can see, I'm not that good at that yet. But it was the first time I actually painted right in the book. I usually would do it on a separate piece of paper, cut it out and glue it, you know, just make sure it looks good. Anyway, so I did. I painted on this piece of book paper, and I also did this little collaging with ripped up circles to give a little bit of that 3D depth impression, and that was fun. It is not my favorite page, but by doing a lot of journaling pages lately, I find that every page is a little special to me. They all took time to make, that took thought, that taught me something. So rather than tossing the ones I'm not so crazy about, I just leave them in here, and there's always something I really like. Like here, I really like the way the colors came, so it's fine. And once in a while I have a page I don't keep, usually in the beginning stages, because I make it too messy, or my paint gets muddy, or God knows what, then yes, but it's rare. Usually, like many people say, especially with mixed media, I think sometimes you get to a ugly spot and you have to just keep working past it, and as you put more details and keep working, it usually turns out really good, to my surprise sometimes. In this album I added a little bit of 3D component nearly on every page. Here it does have a little bit of bling right up here. It says inside. In this album I choose just to use one word or a little phrase. Like I found this little phrase a work of art, and I thought it fit nicely. I loved this image here, but her face was damaged, so I used some gesso, and I went for the phantom look, and I think it looked quite interesting. It has some broken watch pieces here, and yeah, that is. And this page I decoupaged some tissue paper, which I really like to do. I love when it gives this nice texture, which you can bring out when you use ink pad, which I do quite a bit. Because I'm using all the tissue paper here, and you usually have to take off the back layers. Those are usually white, and those are the ones I use on my art pages, and it works great. This is a doily which I outlined to make it a little bit more visible. Inspire. And again, there's a little bit of metal chain. Go away, naughty fly. A little bit of metal chain right there. And like in my last book, I've always seemed to have to do something upside down. So maybe that's going to be my trademark, or maybe not. I don't know. Oops. All right. I'm hoping you can see everything here. All right. And then came the page with a horse. Well, I tried the background with cling wrap and acrylics, where you put it on the very wet acrylic and let it dry, and then as you pull it off you get this great texture, and I really liked it. But then I had the crazy idea of trying to paint a horse, and well, that was a bit out of my range, so that didn't turn out so good. So then I rescued it by finding an image in Collage, the horse instead. I might have overdone it here a little bit too. I think this is a bit too bright. But anyway, I was just starting to kind of experiment a little bit with these 3D elements and a little bit of metal. So, well, you have to try things sometimes and then you find out what works and what doesn't work. It says Captivate. This was a page which came really easy, like you probably have to. Sometimes you just get started and it just flows, it goes quick and it just comes together, looks good, you like it. This was one of them. It was really a lot of fun. It was very simple, very quick. I like the way the dripping worked. I love the colors, and yeah, this was a lot of fun. Confidence, it says. And I added these little, they're made, what are they? Little circles. They're made out of glitter paint. By accident, actually, I realized I had left some on my palette and it hardened just like acrylics do. But with the glitter paint, it looks very pretty. So you can cut it then, you can peel it off and cut it in any shape you want. And circles, of course, are easy. And I think they make a nice embellishment. And they're homemade, which is always something I like. Alright, this one says Breakthrough, and I had just gotten this stencil which gives that impression of breaking, or whatever, I'm not sure what you would call it. I decoupaged a little bit of tissue in the back and used the gesso to give it that impression of depth too, and yeah, it came out really well, I think. I like this page, and again there's a little bit of metal, and I do always a lot of embellishments. I don't know if you can see it so well on the video, but I use gel pen and Sharpies all over the place, or watercolor pencils for the outlining, so on. This is all taken from a magazine too. Choose. On this page I used watercolored, crayons and pastels, and those things are still not my best friends. I'm still learning how to work with them. My pens don't work over them, and I do a lot of embellishment, so that always gives me trouble. I like, you know, the way they blend and all that, but I still have to learn a bit more about how to deal with them in the proper way, use them in a good way. So, again, with some of these pictures, I think I was on a, you know, I was in the middle of making my page, and then I miss a certain piece, something is missing, I can't find exactly what I was thinking about, and I have magazines, but I don't have a whole room full. I have a little stack, so then sometimes I just use whatever I can find, even if it's not, you know, what I had in mind originally. This was what happened here, so I think it could have been better, but again, one of those pages, you try it to see, and yeah, it's alright. And don't read too much into the words I use either. Sometimes when I make pages later on, I look at them and I have very different thought of what I could have called it, but that's just what it is. I guess it's a little bit between the predator and the innocent, and the sunshine and the cloud. I don't know. I'll leave that with you. This is a page I really like. I love the way the colors came out, and I love her position and her look, and I also enjoyed putting this puzzle down. It just so happened that it had very complementary colors to what I had already put on the page, and I found this little thing stand out. Yeah, I like that. Lovely hair, and again it has a little bit of 3D, a little bling there. I found this old door, and I like the idea when you can put things like kind of slide under, make look like it's half in, half out. I think that's kind of fun. So anyway, I give it a little metal doorknob. I used the door. I cut all this out, and I put the tree together. It's just leaves from different plants. It wasn't a tree to start with, and so I put that all together. And then I found this couch and I loved the idea of the couch and the house, home and all. And I liked the color, but it had a person sleeping on it, which I didn't like. So I painted over it, and it actually came out quite well, and you can hardly see it, which of course gave me the idea that I could do that with other collage pieces too. I had often cut pieces to where I had exactly the piece I wanted, but some who have an image on it, or there's a piece missing or something, you can really alter them easily with this paint, and so that's something I want to explore a little more. I do use stickers for the writing sometimes. I actually prefer finding the word in a news magazine or newspaper, whatever, but of course you can't always. So when I can, then I use stickers, at least in this book. And my last book I did most by hand, which I also enjoyed, so this was just a little different. Okay, I had found this big red chair and I loved the looks of it, and I was looking for something to add to it, like a person to sit on it or something like that, and couldn't really find something which really made it look good. And then came up with the idea of having her sit on the ground. I loved her long legs, and it just kind of fit together, and these little birds came from a calendar, and yeah, I like this page a lot. Serenity. It's nice. Serendipity. I love that word. It's come so easy. And it was fun because I had the chameleon, and then I found this piece of jewelry, and it just exactly matches the color. I mean, every color which is on here is also on the chameleon, so that was kind of fun and fitting. And so I painted the vine, and I added some little gold metal leaves I had. And this was actually a chandelier, and I turned it sideways, and so it worked. Yeah, I like this one also. I guess I shouldn't say that I like every page. I guess I should leave it up to you if you like it or not. Of course, I think it's important that you like your art and that you like what you create. But it would give me pleasure to know that you would also enjoy it and like it. This one is called Dreams. Again, the image was very appealing to me. I liked her look and the color of her dress. I gave her a metal earring, and I did embellish the colors. They were already there, but not this bright. So I often do that. I add a bit more so to make it, well, more appealing, more matching, whatever you want to call it. There's a little bit of metal here too. And these were taken from gift wrap paper, yes. This was again one of those images I couldn't pass up. I loved her position, her look, the old camera, it was just so cool. But it came on very flimsy paper, so for effect and also to sturdy it a little bit, I put it on another piece of paper, and I burnt the edges on this one to just kind of preserve it a bit better. And it worked, and I also first time used the map on this page, so it's kind of heavy duty because it has a few layers. And then of course the flowers. I did a lot of embellishments on these flowers because they were kind of fade, not not very bright, so I adjusted the color and outlined them all. And I extended, I guess these were the lights used for filming. It had a few, and I extended them. Vision. And I gave her a tiny, tiny little metal earring, and there's a little bit here too, a little metal. And the hummingbird, he was so pretty I couldn't pass him up, her. And I was looking for an image to complement him, which would kind of fit the color, but couldn't really come up with some. So I actually painted this, and therefore I could make it just the way I wanted, and it worked out really well. This background was, I used the salt technique. You probably know how to do that. I like that a lot. And the little doily and a little bit of metal right there. This is one of my one of the pages I really like a lot. I like again her expression. I like images who have a fun, positive, upbeat expression, I guess. And I added a lot of doodles here, which was kind of fun. And also I cut out these little postcard images actually from a napkin, which means it was very thin, and I could decoupage them in a way that everything would still be visible what was underneath it. And I've done it with other napkins too, where as part of their background they have either music notes or script or something, and sometimes I just take little bits of pieces and use them, and it's really nice. It has a nice effect, I think. And I actually used some real old stamps to put on there. And she too has a little medal. That was an earring. I cut it in half for two bangles, and that little seahorse was part of that earring. I like the color and on here and the way it blends together. And some of my very early mixed media pieces I did on canvas, I was trying out some hand-cut windows and doors and shutters to give it a bit of that Italian look. So I wanted to put something like that in here. So I cut the window, and I like the way the shading came and the way she's able to put her arm out there. Flowers, okay, well, I use a lot of flowers. Sometimes I think they are filler, but on the other hand, they're also very pretty. They come in all kinds of shapes, colors, and it can complete a page so easily. And so I don't mind using them. I try not to use them too much so they appear on every page, but you will see I use flowers quite a bit. And again, I love the way the color came on here. And actually here was one of those accident turned kind of interesting. I used again the napkin to bring the texture, but when I start using my ink pad to do some shading, I guess in some spots it wasn't really dry yet, so it rubbed off, like right here, and over here and over here. But what it did, it revealed what was underneath it, which was actually gold, and I thought it looked really cool. So I kind of stopped and didn't do too much and let those little spots dry, and then after I could do a little more shading. And yeah, I think it's kind of cool. I love when things like that happen. Alright, and here I had all these leaves, cut out leaves. There were little paper, God knows where they came from. I had them for a long time. And so I glued them down. I did all the shading with ink pad. Oh yeah, when I glued them down, I used a lot of glue, a little bit more than usual. And then because there was something on this page from the original cookbook, I gessoed over it to give me more of an even background. And it starts cracking and crackling, and I thought it was so cool, because again, I'd never purposely done it before. I've seen it on videos, people explaining that that's the way you can get crackles, but it wasn't on purpose, but here it was, and I think it's really cool. So I don't know if you can see it, but there's quite a lot right up here and some down there too. I mean, as I didn't do it purposely, it's not everywhere, but it's cool. I like it. Well, this is definitely my dream, to have a little house somewhere in the woods. Up to now we go camping with our little teardrop, and that's fun too, but that would be great to have a cabin. Anyway, the cabin came nearly the way it was, of course without the embellishments. And I extended the tree, I painted this and added this. And the little door or house sign there says Owl Hollow. And then at the end this one is actually heavy acrylic, just because I wanted it black. And there's another one of my happy ladies. Here I added actually a frame which had come from another page, which was an unlucky page. It didn't make it, it just got messed up, but I liked the border, so I cut it out and added it to this, which gives it a little more texture, and I like it. I gave her a little metal heart as a necklace, or replaced her necklace with a real one. This one says create, And these poppies actually came from some wrapping paper, and they have come to the rescue a couple of times. They're super easy to cut out, they have bright colors, easy to use, and I used them already on a couple of pages, so yeah, that's a lot of fun. And this is my last page, life. Of course, I think about my pages a little bit. I try not to overthink them, and I also don't offer interpretations. You're going to have to make your own. One thing about this, I did like the fortune cookie, and there's a thought on that, because life, no matter you know what kind of a life you choose to live, a little fortune is very important, because bad things happen to good people, sad to say. So, and that was my last page, and here it actually had a pocket, but I knew I was not going to use the pocket really for anything, and also it was getting in the way of my pages, so I cut it down, just left the cover, decoupaged it, decorated it a little bit, and just left it like that. So, and there is my book. I hope you enjoyed this flip through. I am already starting on my next one. Now, my last flip through was an altered book, so it had like double spreads like this. It came up to, was probably a little bigger than this one sideways. So this is just a one-page spread, and my new one will even have smaller pages and bigger pages and fold-outs, and I kind of like to experiment a little bit with different sizes and see what I like. I definitely like to alter things and make my own journals. I like to use what I already have, and yeah, I enjoy, how you say, making something out of nothing. Well, I don't know if it's nothing, but to give it a new look, give it a new life. There you go. I really appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope I will see you again for another video, which I'm hoping to make soon. See you. Bye bye.